Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. Hope everyone's doing good. It is Saturday at about 10:26. Pretty nice day here in the first week of May. Here we are in the spring season. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun here at Film Fanatic headquarters. Been watching a ton of movies. Although that's not anything different for me. I usually, I'm always watching movies, always checking out movies. Lately, it's just been really cool because the last month or so, or 2 months, I've been going to the shops that I love to buy some more movies. So I've accumulated a ton of really cool titles. A lot of movies that I haven't seen before. Some that I have, but it's been many many years. Mostly Blu-ray movies, and also some DVDs, but mostly it's been Blu-rays. I will be going up to Bangor on Monday. I will be in the area anyway, so I will probably stop at surprise surprise Bull Moose to buy a few other movies since I'm going to be up in the area. And so very excited. Lately I've been covering this really cool collection. I got to go to a place that I had heard about for actually a really long time. I've driven by it, uh, you know, probably 1,000 times. There's a really cool shop in Waterville called the Record Connection. It's right in downtown Waterville. Waterville is about an hour, maybe a little less from my house. I used to go to Waterville all the time to the Bull Moose there, but lately, for when it comes to Bull Moose, I usually go to the one in Bangor. I've been finding it their title selection as far as like exploitation movies, the movies that are my favorite, it just seems to be a lot better, and their music selection's better too. I still think it's great there, but in Waterville, but I don't know. It's just the titles have diminished as far as availability. But I did stop when I was there. I stopped at the Record Connection, which was my first time, and I got some really great movies there. I They don't have much at all in as far as Blu-rays go, but they have tons and tons of DVDs. So I bought this really awesome collection. It's a collection of about four Clint Eastwood movies, some movies that he directed, and then also movies that he starred in. It's a really awesome package. I just finished it up a couple of nights ago, and I have two more movies to talk about, which I am really excited to talk about. I've done a couple of videos, one for Play Misty for Me, which is an incredible movie. Also, The Beguiled, another show that I did very recently. Today's show is going to be on Coogan's Bluff. Really awesome movie. And the one movie which was funny, I didn't really dig it that much. I don't know. It might have been in the mood because of the mood I was in, or maybe I watched it too late. But I kind of want to watch it again, and that is the Eager Sanction, which is a movie he Clint Eastwood directed and also starred in. I started watching it and I liked some of it, but then suddenly it didn't make for me. It initially felt like I was watching two completely different movies, and it was kind of a mess. But again, I liked it, and but I don't know, I wasn't really digging it. I didn't finish it, but I kind of want to watch it again, which I probably will, and do a show on it because the rest of these movies are just awesome. So today's show is going to be on Coogan's Bluff, which is a movie that I probably I did see. I have seen all of these movies before. The one, the two movies that I never did see until like fairly recently, or within the last few years, was The Beguiled. I saw that. I've seen that movie twice. Now I own it. These DVD versions of these movies, the collection, the quality is really, really great. It's really good quality DVD. They're all very good quality DVDs. It's like two discs. The Beguile I saw once about 7 or 8 years ago, and then I just recently watched it again for the review. Amazing movie. The rest of the films I had seen before. The other one, well, I should say, Play Mystic for Me, of course, classic. I had seen that a bunch of times, but it had been years since I watched it. Um, Coogan's Bluff, the same thing, which is today's show. I know I've seen it a couple times, but it's been years. The Eager Section is a movie I have never seen before, and that was directed by Clint Eastwood. But Coogan's Bluff, which is today's show, it's such an awesome movie. It was directed by Don Siegel, who also directed The Beguiled. Don Siegel was a really prolific figure in Hollywood in the 60s and 70s. He was a producer of numerous films. He also was a really prolific director. He had a real tight partnership with Clint Eastwood and really, you know, ushered in his arrival as not only as an American kind of Hollywood icon, but also especially around him becoming, Clint Eastwood transitioning to becoming a director, a film director. He really kind of nurtured him. Clint Eastwood had such a great relationship with Don Siegel for many, many years. And when he was finally established as a big name in Hollywood, and this project came up for Play Misty for Me, he realized, wow, there's some potential here. Let's take a chance. Let's take a creative risk. And so that ushered in this whole new era for Clint Eastwood's career as a director, and his debut was Play Misty for Me, which is an extraordinary movie, timeless movie. So they've had a long partnership for many, many years, and Don Siegel, in his own right, is a pretty extraordinary director. Coogan's Bluff is definitely I think out of all of these movies, it kind of feels like the film that's kind of the most, or shares the most general characteristics as far as the world of exploitation. Coogan's Bluff came out in '68, which is hard to believe. It's not dated at all. This movie has so much of that vibe from the late '60s and early '70s. It just has that aesthetic. It's really gritty. It's silly. It's kind of sleazy. Really great fight scenes in this film. It's really great. It's got that classic kind of exploitation kind of aesthetic to it. Great music, great lighting. There's so many cool, memorable scenes in this movie. And Coogan's Bluff is, basically Clint Eastwood stars as a soft-spoken, straightforward lawman who has all of these really unorthodox methods as far as how he captures the criminals, if you will. And he gets involved in this. He's a lawman, but he kind of works outside of the law. He's a little bit of takes the law in his own hands. You could almost say a vigilante to a degree. And he's always kind of at battle with his bosses because of his methods. But because he's kind of reckless and kind of crazy, and he's a little bit of an outlaw, it leads to him being he ends up getting into much more violent situations. But then this film was also the tone of, obviously with Play Misty for Me and The Beguiled, both of those films are very, very serious. They're very dark, very, very dark, and they have a very serious kind of tone to them. There's not really any, sense of there's no humor really involved in the film. There's no, to a degree, no level. There's no real level of, say, campiness to it. But The thing that's cool about Coogan's Bluff is it is a little bit campy. There's a little bit of a comedic thing in the whole throughout the whole film. It's a little bit. There's almost a few scenes. There's a few scenes in the film where it almost feels like it's a slapstick kind of a comedy. It's kind of goofy and it's kind of silly. Those are also other characteristics as to why I feel like this movie is almost a little bit more of a grindhouse movie because it doesn't take itself so seriously. It is a very violent movie. It's pretty dark, beautifully shot. I mean, the cinematography. Don Siegel was a terrific director. I mean, just a real strong vision, a real sense of style, great cinematography. Music is great, but again, it's kind of silly. It's kind of goofy, and I like that. And that's one of the things I love about the world, films in the world of exploitation. Because it can have, a lot of movies in the exploitation world can have a very serious, tone, or they might be dealing with like heavy duty, tackling some heavy duty taboos, or they might be incredibly violent or incredibly sexual. But a lot of the times, there's something about the films or those films that is very campy, very silly. It might be because there might be, actually a case of where there's humor actually injected into the script, or which is kind of premeditated or purposely done, or it might be just silly and goofy because the acting might not be so great, the editing might be ridiculous, the the writing for the script might not be so good, so it just gives the movie automatically this very kind of silly, campy kind of vibe. That's a characteristic that I love about one of the my favorite. That's actually one of my favorite characteristics of grindhouse cinema, because I think a lot of the times, especially nowadays in 2024, there's a lot of great films that come out, but I do find more and more that it's kind of the case of, well, they don't make them like they used to, or maybe they don't make them like they used to. But I call that the grandpa syndrome, and I try not to play that card a lot, but I think that's true to a degree, especially now. But that being said, there's still great films that come out, but I think generally everything that comes out these days, in the world of television shows and movies, everything just seems to be so damn serious, where everything has just got to be, everything has to have this level of I don't know, everything has got to have high stakes, and everything has to be dark. The storylines, the characters. There's no levity to it. There's no, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of filmmakers now, when they make films, take themselves so seriously, and it shows in the films that they put out, the products. And I think what I love a lot in art and music and just everything in general is when the creators, whether they're the director or the writers or whatever their job is, if they can be very, very serious and take their craft incredibly seriously, but if they can also realize, well, I'm not, I can laugh at myself a little bit. I can kind of laugh at this movie and have fun with it. I love when you can see that in art too, where, because life is, it kind of, for me, it reflects life. There's dark times we go through, there's serious times we go through, there's surreal, times that we live, we feel like we're living through these very surrealistic kind of events, and life is very funny and whimsical. So I love when those kinds of things, and it's all different kinds of shades. It's not, life isn't one dimensional. So I love when that's kind of reflected in art. And Coogan's Bluff, compared to these other movies, is way more of a sillier kind of experience, which I think is great because it adds a lot of levity to the story. Because again, it does have some serious things. It is a very violent movie. It is very serious in a lot of ways. There's a lot of intense fight scenes, but there's a goofiness to it. It's a great movie. It's really really awesome. I know I saw Coogan's Bluff once or twice, probably when I was a kid or it was on cable. My dad was, has always been a big Clint Eastwood fan. This movie's kind of a western too. It's kind of labeled as a, when I look this film up, Coogan's Bluff, it's labeled as kind of this western, and it definitely is kind of a modern western, at least at that time. Even though it's set in 1968, it has very much a western aesthetic, but very cool movie. Super. I love it too because it's super stylized. It's got a lot of cool. It really has a great sense of like the fashion of the 60s and the early 70s. It's got that whole, great. It's got some great cinematography, great lighting, great music. It's very very cool. The characters are pretty flamboyant and ridiculous and over the top, but awesome movie. And I'm really happy with the quality of these movies on DVD. It's really really great. Sure, it would be cool to probably buy these separately at some point on Blu-ray, but pretty psyched that I got this collection. Definitely recommend Coogan's Bluff. It's a super entertaining movie, and so yeah, definitely check it out if you get a chance. It's amazing that it was made in 1968. So thanks again, and we will see you next time. Peace.